Hello, I've got some more to say today about connection. My last talk, I think, was about interconnection and interdependence. But I want to talk about connection coming at it from a rather different angle today. And to start with, I'm going to tell a story, which is a true story that I heard about from someone I know. And the story goes like this, that there were two good friends who lived in the same neighbourhood, and they were both into meditation. They both practiced Bodhivajra. And after some time, one of these two friends went to live in a different part of the country. They went to live in the north of the country, and the other one stayed in the south. Well, one evening, the friend who stayed in the south sat down to meditate, did Bodhivajra meditation, and in the second stage, the good friend stage, included his good friend who had gone up to the north to live in the north. So after he'd finished meditating, the phone went, and it was his friend in the north, and he said, "Hey, did you do Bodhivajra meditation just now?" "Yes," his friend said. "And did you put me in the second stage?" "Yes, I did," his friend said. So I thought that was a very good story about the possible effects, far-reaching effects of not just Bodhivajra, but any meditation. But it depended not just on the strength of meditation of the person who was meditating. It also depended very much on the ability to receive on the part of the person who felt it coming towards them. So on the one hand, you could say there was a transmission, like a signal, a radio signal being transmitted, and up there in the north of the country there was someone whose antennae were tuned in, and they were able to receive this transmission. So it happened on a level which is beyond technology, and maybe even beyond our ordinary realm of sense experience. But we could say it happened within mind, as a sense, the sense experience of the mind, which is more direct. It's intuitive and imaginative. So another story now, which is from Tibet in ancient times, and there was a very famous yogi, meditation practitioner called Milarepa, who's one of the most famous Buddhist practitioners of all time, probably, certainly in Tibetan Buddhism. Anyway, before he became a meditator, he was looking for a teacher, and he heard about the name of a particular teacher, and he set off on a journey to find this teacher. And in these stories, journeys, I suppose in Tibet, journeys always seem to take forever. You spend weeks or months even toiling through really difficult terrain, snowdrifts up to your ears and so on. So I imagine it was quite an arduous journey. It took him a long time. But what is really, really interesting is that the teacher he was going to, Marpa, although he lived at a place very remote from where Milarepa was, he knew that he was coming. I don't know how much he knew about him, but he knew that someone was coming who was going to be his disciple. No text messages, no phone calls, no email, nobody told him, but he knew that this person was coming to see him. So on the day in which Marpa, the teacher, on the day on which he expected Milarepa to arrive, he got himself a jug of beer, which is another interesting bit, which I won't go into now. He got himself a jug of beer, took it to a field not far from his house, buried it in the ground to keep it cool, and I'm not sure whether he just waited for Milarepa to arrive, I can't quite remember, or whether he did some work in the field. But anyway, he stayed in that field until, lo and behold, Milarepa turned up. His new disciple, who they'd not met before, they didn't know each other. Milarepa had a strong urge to go and see Marpa and take him as a teacher because he's heard about him. And Marpa knew that he was coming. How did he know that he was coming? Well, I can't say for sure. But it must be something intuitive, something that happens in the mind sense that I referred to earlier. So in terms of the analogy I used of transmission and reception, maybe Milarepa was, because he was so intense, so desirous of getting to this teacher, putting all his energy into getting there, maybe something was transmitted, which Marpa, the extremely proficient meditator and teacher, that he was able to pick up. So he was able to receive this transmission, as it were. How else could he have known? It was just direct. Mind to mind, you could say. I think this is particularly relevant at the time we're in because we rely so much on technology for our means of communication and connection. And I think probably we've forgotten how to use our more refined faculties of intuition. Maybe we disregard intuition, we just dismiss it as fanciful or just some idle thought. I don't have lots of intuitive experiences myself, but I have had a few. I've had some strong images in dreams and sometimes in meditation or in waking moments. And some of these have been, I can remember one which I was very dismissive of when it arrived. I thought, what a stupid thought, why on earth has that thought come into my mind? I was walking along the street and I had the notion that someone was about to pull up in a car next to me and ask me the way to a certain village, which was not far from where I was walking. And I thought, why has that thought come? That's ridiculous. And a minute later, that is exactly what happened. A woman pulled up in her Mercedes and asked me the way to this village. I nearly said, oh, I was expecting you. But then I thought I better not, might freak her out. So I just gave her directions. But where did that come from? Maybe I was particularly in touch with meditation on that day. I'd done my usual morning meditation. But I sometimes think that in our present society, because of all the technology, there's so many radio signals going about the world. There's mobile phone masts, which are presumably transmitting and receiving signals all the time. There's signals going back and forth to satellites, millions of them every day, maybe even millions of them every moment, I don't know. And that's all outside in the world. And then even in our own homes, we've got maybe a wireless printer or our computer picks up the internet wirelessly. Our mobile phone is always picking up or sending signals. And we have remote controls for this and that. I have a number of these things. And sometimes I think maybe that doesn't help the airwaves. Maybe the ether or something is kind of clogged up with all these signals racing about. So there's two things. One is we don't have such a strong ability to meditate, I don't think, because we haven't come from that tradition. Although some of us are, very actively trying to develop that. And we also perhaps don't have the clarity of atmosphere that would have been around before so much technology. I think at this moment, because of COVID restrictions, we haven't got full lockdown, but we have got restrictions, is more important than ever that we connect in ways which are, well, not just through technology. So a good friend of mine, someone I've known for a long time, has just had a very serious operation in a hospital yesterday. It was a heart operation in Cambridge, and I couldn't go to see him because of the restrictions. I can't go and see him today while he's recovering. But yesterday, I knew he was having the operation, and so imaginatively I connected with him. I looked at a picture of him that I've got, and I chanted mantras for a particular Buddha Bodhisattva figure that I know he's connected with. And I chanted those mantras, well, first thing in my morning meditation, and also as much as I could during the day. And I found after a while that the mantra was kind of going on in the background, even while I was doing something else. So maybe I didn't directly contact him, and maybe he didn't pick anything up from me. Well, he would have been unconscious for hours, probably all day yesterday. But, from my point of view, there was definitely an imaginative connection, if not an actual connection. Sometimes in meditation, an image comes up very strongly. I had one such image recently in meditation of a teacher who is one of my teacher's teachers, someone that I never met, but I feel that I've met because I've met through the mind sense many times, and I've read a lot about him. Well, not that much, there isn't that much that's written about him, but I've read what there is to read about him, and I've seen footage of him on various videos. So I do have a connection with him. And even though he died, 30 years ago now, and I never met him, yet he is alive in my imagination. He is alive in my world. He's alive in my practice. So we may be experiencing frustration with COVID restrictions, but we've got this tremendous resource. We've got our mind. We've got the mind sense. We've got the intuitive ability, at least potentially. And if we keep up a meditation practice and we keep connecting with people in whatever ways we can, through technology, through actual meeting, or through imagination, then we can overcome any kind of restrictions that COVID is putting on us. Okay, time's running out, so I'll finish there for today.